Okay, so we've all heard of retail therapy, right? That little pick-me-up you buy yourself after a really tough day. We just automatically assume it's about shopping when we're sad. But what if I told you that our happiest moments, when we're feeling on top of the world, are actually when we're the most financially reckless? Today, we're going to dive into the surprising psychology of spending, and trust me, it is not what you think. This comment from a Reddit user just nails it, doesn't it? They're saying, hey, all the advice out there is about being sad, but for me, I shop when I'm already happy and it just amps it up. This single comment gets right to the heart of this massive misconception we have about why we spend our money. So, to really understand why this happy spending idea gets so overlooked, we first have to tackle the idea we all think we know so well, the whole myth of retail therapy. Yeah, the classic view of retail therapy is that it's just a coping mechanism. You have a bad day, you're feeling stressed or bored, so you make what we call a comfort buy. It's this little attempt to get back a sense of control, to buy yourself a little bit of relief. But that's only half the story. All right, now for the really surprising part. Let's move past the sad days and look at this incredibly powerful and often totally ignored trigger for our spending, just being happy. I love this term the same Reddit user came up with, fuzzy maths. It's that feeling, you're on a high, all your problems feel a million miles away, and you just sort of assume that future you is gonna figure out the bills. This isn't just a funny little quirk, it's a real thing. When we're in a good mood, we can become kind of blind to future consequences. And get this, that fuzzy maths actually has a scientific name. It's called temporal myopia. It's basically a cognitive blind spot that our brain gets when we're happy. We become literally short-sighted about the future. We genuinely believe that future you is a superhero who can handle anything. So it's not a character flaw. It's just how our brain gets wired when we're feeling good. Okay, so we've established that good moods and bad moods can both make us open up our wallets. But why? Well, it turns out our brains are basically running two different programs at the same time, and they're constantly fighting for control. So think of it like this. The first program is your mood goggles. That's called affective evaluation. If you're happy, everything you look at seems awesome and totally safe. If you're sad, the whole world looks a little gloomy and risky. Then you have the second program, the mood thermostat. That's affect regulation. Its only job is to manage how you feel. If you're down, it wants to crank up the heat. If you feel great, it wants to keep things exactly as they are. And these two systems, your goggles and your thermostat, are always working and sometimes battling it out over what you're going to buy next. And check out this study. It shows this whole thing perfectly. Researchers asked people how likely they were to buy a product that had mood-lifting benefits. Now look at these results. When people felt bad, they wanted to buy it. No surprise there, that's the thermostat trying to cheer them up. But when they felt good, they also wanted to buy it. That's the goggles saying it's a great idea and the thermostat wanting to keep those good vibes rolling. And notice, the desire to buy is at its lowest when people feel neutral. It's so clear. Our emotions are the fuel for our spending. Okay, let's zoom in on sadness for a minute. We know it's a trigger, but what exactly is going on in our brains? It turns out it's not just about feeling bad. There's another crucial ingredient that has to be in the mix. And here's the key. Sadness really only opens our wallets when it's paired with intense self-focus. Take a look at the graph here. When you feel sad, but you're not really thinking about yourself, your spending barely changes. But when you feel sad and you're totally dwelling on yourself, well, that's when spending just skyrockets. The theory here is that this combination makes us feel kind of small or inadequate, and our brain subconsciously thinks that acquiring new things can sort of patch up that feeling and make us feel more whole. But a happy brain? Oh, it plays by a completely different set of rules. It's optimistic, it's ready to take risks, it's ready to spend. But its number one mission, its prime directive, is to protect the good mood. This creates a really weird paradox. It will happily greenlight a small treat. But if a purchase seems too big, too stressful, like a giant purchase that might lead to buyer's remorse, it'll actually back away. Why? Because that potential stress threatens to kill the good vibe. So we've got the psychology. Now let's look at the brain chemistry that turns all of this into a really hard-to-break habit. And it all comes down to a powerful feedback loop created by one very famous little chemical. We are talking, of course, about dopamine, but here is the critical thing that most people get wrong about it. The biggest chemical rush, that big feel-good hit, doesn't actually come from owning the new thing. It comes from the chase, all the browsing, the comparing prices, the thrill of finally clicking add to cart. That's the moment our brain gets its biggest reward. And this is exactly how the habit gets wired into this powerful repeating loop. It starts with an emotion, could be happy, could be sad. That feeling triggers a desire to shop as a way to manage your mood. Then the act of searching and anticipating the purchase releases that dopamine, which feels really good. So your brain logs this as a successful strategy. It says, hey, when I felt that way, doing this made me feel better. And so the next time you feel that emotion, the cycle is even stronger and more likely to repeat itself. Okay, so understanding the why is definitely half the battle. But how do we actually take back control? And look, this isn't about never spending money again. It's about spending with intention. So your money is actually serving your real goals, not just your moods of the moment. Let's walk through 3 really simple strategies. First, recognize your triggers. Seriously, for just 1 week, keep a little journal. When you buy something, just jot down how you were feeling. Were you stressed? Were you celebrating? This is going to reveal your patterns so fast. Second, pause. Emotional spending lives on impulse, so create a mandatory 24-hour waiting period for any purchase that isn't an absolute necessity. A lot of the time, the urge just goes away. And third, find an alternative. If you know that boredom always leads you to scrolling on Amazon, have a replacement ready to go, a podcast, a walk, calling a friend. The key is to consciously redirect that impulse before it takes over. In the end, it all comes down to asking ourselves this one simple but really powerful question. The goal isn't to stop feeling emotions, and it's not to stop spending money. It's about building awareness of the connection between the two. Because when we know why we're buying, whether it's from happiness or sadness or just plain old stress, we can finally start to make sure our money is building the life we actually want, instead of just reacting to whatever mood we happen to be in right now.